We've had another earnings call, which I want to get to, which I think we'll all have a good time with, which is Anheuser Busch. They had their earnings call, guys. So this is, for those that don't know, Anheuser Busch is, of course, the owner of Bud Light. I mean, how would you not know that now? So they had, this is just a transcript that I managed to find online. You can play the call, etc., etc. But just as a transcript, it's just interesting. This is the quarter 2, 2023 earnings call, and it happened today. So, we're on this news-wise. This is pretty interesting stuff. And they note a lot of stuff, actually, all about the Bud Light situation. A lot of this stuff isn't that interesting, but some of it is. So they talk about revenue growth, positive earnings, and then the brand. They're like, well, this quarter was not without challenge. The strength of our brand portfolio's global footprint and our focus on disciplined resource allocation continues to enable us to invest for the long term while delivering profitable growth. But of course, naturally, they did have to talk about Bud Light. So, with performance impacted by the decline of the Bud Light brand, with respect to Bud Light brand performance, we have actively engaged with over 17,000 consumers. It's not exactly a lot since April. And there are a few clear insights. This is the stuff which they keep repeating. This will be in the marketing moving forwards. First, most consumers surveyed are favorable towards the Bud Light brand. And approximately 80... Well, no, listen, this is the hilarious part. And approximately 80% are favorable or neutral, meaning they just don't care. 80%. What he's saying there, 80% of people could just be like, yeah, I just don't care. I don't care about the brand. The consumer will always be at the center of everything we do. All of us at ABI deeply care about and respect all of our consumers.
Horseshit.
Secondly, regardless of favorability, our consumers across all sentiment groups have 3 points of feedback in common. This is what they think everyone's feedback is. So, yeah, you can tell me if this is true or not. 1, they want to enjoy their beer without a debate. Yeah,
no.
Why do you need to survey people to figure that out? Are you joking?
Yeah.
Like, what? You're a beer company.
I mean, the only debate should be, is this beer better than that beer?
Yeah.
Comparing the same thing or whatever.
Oh, so funny. 2, they want Bud Light to focus on beer.
They're just figuring that out.
They had to survey 17,000 people, guys, to come up with this. These people earn hundreds of millions of dollars. Just let that sink in. Oh, my God. Right. 3, they want Bud Light to concentrate on platforms that all consumers love, such as the NFL, Folds of Honor, and music. We're taking the feedback and working hard towards our consumers' business every day across the world. While our total beer industry share declined by 520 BPS this quarter to 36.9%, it has been stable since the last week of April through to the end of June. Yeah.
When you hit bottom, you can't go much lower than bottom.
That's nothing to be proud of, is it? We declined, to 36.9%, but it stayed there. It stayed there.
We lost customers, and they never came back.
Yeah. And they're like, it's been stable since the last week of April through to the end of June. US EBITDA declined by 28.2% this quarter, with approximately 2/3 driven by market share performance and 1/3 driven by productivity loss. And the long-term strategic choices we made to increase sales and market investments in our brands and provide support
and
to our wholesale partners.
The EBITDA would have been even more of a decline had they not done some of the promotional stuff that they did, and had there's some other factors in there. But it, like I said, I looked at it and I can't believe that, how much they really did fall off. They fell off more than a lot of people speculated. And I think that ultimately they're going to find out that they're off 30%. And again, they hit it also because they had a price increase that came into effect headed into April. So this thing's not over.
Oh, this is dead. And so a lot of this stuff isn't that interesting, right? But then we get to we basically get to the call-in part. Now this isn't like the shareholder calls from that Bob Iger had to suffer. These are basically just like businesses, massive shareholders.
And you only get that at an
like
annual
banks
call.
and things like that. Yeah. So, but they were all pretty much all about Bud Light, basically, and it's funny. So, question and answer session. Trevor Sterling with Bernstein said, first question. I've got two questions. First one, blah 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 blah. And then says, so showing that you're looking at your chart, showing the market share trends over time in the US, it does look, maybe I'm being too optimistic here, that last week started to see a little bit of an improvement in market share trends. Is that something you'd agree with? So is that being driven by Bud Light itself or the other brands? So basically, Bud Light is still weak, but the other brands and the collateral damage, if you like, is starting to reduce. And the second question, probably one for Fernando, very good margin performance in Middle America, and just talking about Mexico, basically. So they're like, basically, is Bud Light dragging everything down, but the other brands are picking it all up? The main objective for us to share this data, which is public data, is one, bring a little bit of idea that we see, which is more stable shared over the last couple of weeks. You see that from May to June to the early July readings, that is actually improvement on the delta share as you go month to month, week to week, but it's more stable scenario. And now, of course, brands and the team in the US working hard to build it back, to earn back consumers, and our commercial activities are in place.
They're doing a terrible job.
Basically, no. Bud Light hasn't improved. It's still dead. We're still working really, really hard.
Yeah, and for nothing.
Yeah, they won't get this back at all. So Deutsche Bank chimed in, asking about stuff. So given you did organic EB ITDA growth of 9% in the first half, but 5% in the second half, which is pretty impressive given the challenges you faced, can you maybe run us through the puts and takes for the second half, and specifically what you're assuming for the US and how we should think about the shape for quarter 3 and quarter 4? Thank you. So, and again, they're talking about Bud Light. A lot of it is this Bud Light thing. But they're talking about where they're investing things. So they're like, we're going to challenge here. We've had our own challenges, but in puts and takes, you saw things working very well across 4 out of our 5 regions, very strong growth. We mentioned before the second half of the year, we would have differences in terms of quarter 3, quarter 4 because of the World Cup. And this goes into what they were talking about. Lastly, like where they're going to market things, like they're giving away money. Yeah, that's part of their thing now, is just to literally give away cash. There was another funny one. I can't sort of bookmark a specific point on a page, guys. So you got to forgive me here. I'm sort of trying to look through it now. There was another quite funny one that I saw.
While you're looking for that, Nate, real quick.
Oh no, here. We see in the press and in the news a lot of pretty deep discounts and couponing. How is the promo environment now that we're in the middle of the summer season, and how does it compare to the past? And this is
that's a brutal one.
This is Robert Ottenstein with Evercore, whoever that is. So they say, look at the numbers, pretty similar. There's nothing like big to highlight in difference between on-premise and off-premise so far. And I think one important indicator that you brought that we are always monitoring is TAPs, and that is not now. I think that since the comeback from COVID, there is quite a meaningful rotation in terms of TAPs, and we see bars, restaurants optimizing for high turnover. I think that's the best way to explain what's happening. All right. And you see brands and have higher sales and turnovers getting more TAPs, and these larger varieties that some points to scales carry that at very low productivity being delisted. We see that. So that's Bud Light. We see this happening across some of our craft beers or brands that have low turnover. That's literally Bud Light. We measure this with our wholesalers and through independent. We've retained more than 98% of our TAPs throughout the year, and some of our brands are gaining a lot of TAPs. Some brands are declining some TAPs, but all in all, on-trade and off-trade performance very similar, as you can see on our numbers. I think that's so promotional pricing discounts. So the environment in pricing, I think that's healthy. If you think about the inflation, last year, this year, the fact that we took 2 price increases last year, so we increased it, and now we're just discounting and giving it away. That's healthy. That's good. Given the size of inflation and costs, and there's a good carryover throughout this year, as per plan, we concentrated more of our commercial activities in the middle of this year. So this doesn't have anything to do with the Bud Light situation. Was planned and announced and shared with us. Are you bollocks? Absolute bollocks. That's hilarious. Would you? Oh my god. I can't remember. I don't think there's anything. What were you going to say, Nick? You're going to say something then.
Well, two things real quick. One, there's videos going around Twitter, social media, all over the place. Just here recently of bars and restaurants taking their Bud Light taps out and replacing them with something else. It is still going down. And one thing also that people got to remember is starting next month, first part of September, going in October, you got NFL football starting, and you got baseball and playoffs going. And that is going to bring huge crowds, and they are going to see a huge decline. Like even just with the Division A teams, like here in Birmingham, and there's one in Huntsville that friends of mine actually go to, and they're like, Bud Light sales are like non-existent. Like the stadium up in Huntsville for the Panda Bears baseball team, that they don't even sell Bud Light at the stadium at all anymore because nobody was buying it.
I'm seeing taps replaced at restaurants around here with one of my favorite brews, the 805 brew, which is from Firestone Walker Brewing Company. And I'm seeing that happen at a lot of places, including restaurants that I go. So I think they even did it at the theater I prefer to go to.
I have a question though, because according to a YouGov poll, and this, or I don't know the source, but as of mid-July, so 2 weeks ago, Bud Light was still claimed to be a top 5 selling beer in the US in May. How can that be? How can it still be on top 5 when it's selling nothing?
I think, well, okay, so that's May. So the first thing broke on April 1st. So I mean, May is a big month. Was it throughout May? Was it the beginning of May?
All right. So so for actuals in June, July, it's not going to be in the top 20 probably.
Well, they actually, I think some people have suggested that it's fallen all the way to 14. But I'm not sure. And again, that's not me. So, and that's just based on my poor recollection as an old guy. But usually I do remember numbers pretty well. But
I do trust your recollection. So I'm not worried about that.
But would it surprise me if it had fallen out of the top 5, Andre? Would be like the best question.
I'd be surprised if it's still there, considering that people are embarrassed of being seen drinking it. Then I'm more like, how the hell is it in the top 20?
Well, and see, I've replaced anything Budweiser in my house. There is none. No brand owned by AB InBev is in my house, including spirits. Nothing. It just doesn't here anymore. It's not something that is going to make it into my house. And so, I think a lot of people have slowly done that because they become more informed. This is the worst thing that could happen to a brand, people becoming informed about what else they own. And so I see that having ancillary damage to all the other brands that they have. But at the same time, I'm likely to pick up an 805. I'm likely to pick up, something like, like Tecate or something like that. It has nothing to do with it. And now you're seeing the number 1 beer in the U.S., which will be official as of the end of this month, the end of August, will be Modelo Especial here in the States, which is not owned by AB InBev as it is elsewhere. Here, it's owned and controlled by Constellation Brands. So Constellation Brands moves into first. You're watching one of my other favorite beers, Yingling, make a massive strides everywhere that it's available, and you're seeing them try to expand their distribution across all 50 states. In fact, I would ask, because Nick is in an area where I believe they have Yingling. Have you seen Yingling more frequently?
Oh, 100%. Like all my friends around here it's either Miller Lite or Yingling. Are the two, but then there's also, we got a lot of craft breweries here, Good People, which is a high seller around here, and Bell's Two Hearted out of I think Kalamazoo, Michigan is a big, huge seller here. Those are the two big seller craft beers. But yeah, Yingling, Miller Lite, those are the two, and Buffalo Wild Wings even swapped out their other Bud Light tap with a second Miller Lite because they were selling so much Miller Lite. And then the gas station where I go, I asked the lady in there who owns the store how their Bud Light sales was going, and she said she hasn't ordered any Bud Light in 2 months. She said all the stock of Bud Light we have here, we've had, and I have not purchased any more in the past 2 months. And that was literally just like a week and a half or so ago when I asked her this. So, I mean, you're looking at, pretty much all of May, all of July. He hasn't put in any more orders to the distribution company to get more Bud Light product, which I'm guessing is probably the case for most places, especially in this state and in this area for sure.
Oh well, couldn't happen to a better company. I love the fact that they had to address it, didn't they? But each and every single time, you're like, oh, God, that's not going to.
They're trying to spin it in a positive way, though, Nate.
Yeah, I have to say that those shareholders were incredibly polite, allowing them to get away with it. But that kind of is the norm in business. You get away with things in that kind of meetings because the real conversations are had behind the scenes between the major institutional shareholders and the management of the company, not in public. But with those questions right there and those answers, just look at what they get away with, and now contrast that to what Bob Iger was subjected to at Disney the last time, and the frustration of those shareholders. Because to me, that only goes to show the savagery of what Bob Iger was set through when the actual shareholders got to ask him questions, and I can't wait for the next time that will happen. We'll see how well they're able to screen the questions, but I can only imagine there must be some major frustration there. So